Man, these markets remain in an ever-tightening range, and I'm starting to see a lot of setups. I'm starting to see some potential pressure building. Does it break to the upside, to the downside? That's yet to be seen, but let's take a look at the charts very quick. First, Bitcoin. And I mentioned this here, this very tight equilibrium pattern that's been forming over the last couple of days. And, there's an argument to be made that it's starting to really break above that here today. On most exchanges, it's starting to break this initial downtrend that I've been drawing. You can see that poking out above the top there. If we look at it on some of these other exchanges, that's on Coinbase. If we go to Bitstamp, there's the line I had drawn the last couple of days. This red zone here around that 11.6, 11.7K mark, if we can start to close above that, that's going to be some good upside confirmation. But for now, it's just starting to edge out slowly above this upper resistance level. If we zoom in here, you can see on the hourlies, some good buy volume starting to come in as it starts to get some of that buy pressure to move it to the upside. So are the bulls ready to charge? Are we ready to break out to the upside? That's it looking like it wants to, but we've got to wait to see that confirmation here. So for now, I'm partially in. I am looking at some alts. I'm taking some positions here. Here it is on Coinbase again. If we go to some of these others, Bitfinex starting to edge out. And so it's looking much better than it was last couple of days, but it's been very choppy and it's been getting very narrow and very tight until we got to wait until the market decides which direction it wants to go in next. Now, if we break out to the upside, the level I'm going to be watching here is going to be this resistance zone in and around that high 12K to low 13K mark. You can see that was a big break point from that support level that we broke here. And when we rallied into that, that just happened to be a major resistance point. And so if we do break to the upside, I'm going to be watching to see how it acts going into that zone. Now, if we happen to break to the downside, the level to watch first is this very near-term resistance here above that 10K level. And then the lows from last week in and around that 9K mark. And so that's going to be interesting to see if that holds up, if we start to see some heavy selling. Either way, this chart is just getting so tight. I think we're going to see the momentum really build to whichever direction it decides to go in here. And we're going to find out here soon enough in the next couple of days at most. So some of the other charts that are really tightening up here, Ethereum starting to edge higher here. Has been sitting pretty tight here, following suit with Bitcoin. You can see this. But if you look at Ethereum BTC, let me zoom out here and show you the daily chart. Look at how tight that's been getting. After that big rally we had, nice little saucer type of pattern here near the highs, letting that moving average catch up. Volume getting quiet here on this consolidation, possibly looking like it wants to edge out and start making some new yearly highs versus BTC here to take out this most recent high. Litecoin is another one that I'm watching here. So Litecoin USD pulling in, certainly not as strong as Ethereum has been, but getting real tight here in the last couple of days. And you can see here the action here in the last 4 days or so has been very tight, very narrow. So I'm going to be watching this one close to see if we can take out this very near-term resistance level to the upside. If it does, then we will very quickly test these next levels here in the low 220 range. And so again, this is very much symmetrical, could go either way, could also break to the downside. So we got to keep an eye on that. Neo is another one that's been sitting pretty tight. Let's take a look at that chart. This one's getting very symmetrical, starting to edge out above that the trend line here, but you can see how narrow this is getting and starting to look pretty good here. So keep an eye on that one. Dash is another one, has a very similar pattern. So Dash USD pair. Look at how narrow that's getting here in the last couple of days, and we're going to see this one break out one way or the other here relatively quickly. So very similar patterns. A lot of it, of course, is just because of what BTC is doing here in the last couple of days, sitting tight. It's certainly having an influence on some of these bigger names, but some of the smaller names that are really starting to move here. So let me hop over to the other charts here. So if you look at 0x was pretty strong here in the last couple of days, trying to break out to new highs here. Let me go to the daily chart. You can see this one put in that nice base. Saw some good volume coming in. Let's see if we can see some follow through on that one here. Walton just continues to power higher. continues to make new highs. Didn't really feel much of that pullback on that we saw with most of the other markets, and even in the last week. Now it's starting to feel a little extended, but even in the last week, this one's already up 60-70%. So just has been a big mover. Another name, if you look at the other extreme, there's a lot of names that are really starting to put in these low, kind of quiet, bottoming type of formations. So Verge is one I'm watching here, trying to move off of the lows here. You can see it's had this big consolidation, and you're seeing a lot of names starting to put in this roll type pattern here. Some of them are starting to look like a falling wedge type pattern, and that's a bullish pattern because they tend to break to the upside. So you can see it's trying to turn the corner here in the most recent couple of hours there. Substratum is another one that's pulling in, trying to bounce off of these lows. And so there's a lot of these names that are trying to put in these lows here, and these lows just happen to correspond with some more recent consolidations before the last run up. So we'll see if they can hold. Tron is another one that's been sitting tight here at the lows for some time. See if it can finally break out above that. Pivx had a breakout and is pulled right back to that breakout point. This breakout was on news that it was added to Binance, had that big pop. And so we'll see if we can settle out here. If I zoom in a little bit there, you can see it's trying to hold this breakout point right now. So that's going to be interesting to see if we can start to bounce. Right now it's starting to go flat here and build a little pressure, but the volume there is very quiet. You can't even hardly see it on this chart right here. And so it's looking really quiet there. Some other names to watch that could be setting up for a little bit of a breakout. Ubic, sitting tight here. If you look at that daily chart of Ubic, it's starting to form a little bit of an ascending type of pattern here with a very clear overhead resistance points. Another one is Stratus. So Stratus coming off the lows with some very strong volume, pulling in a little bit, but just letting this moving average catch up. See if we can see some upside follow through on Stratus. So I'm just kind of picking some names, nothing in particular order here, just kind of going through some of these names that have been on my radar here the last couple of days as I do my market scans. You can see District here, trying to find a low here, some good volume starting to come in. You're seeing a little bit of accumulation patterns. And so just wanted to go through some of these names to give you guys some examples. I'm seeing a lot of this across the board. Just names that are trying to set up, trying to find a low here. So it will be interesting to see how some of these react if Bitcoin decides to break to the upside. Does a lot of the money decide to move back into BTC? Does it push the alts higher? So that's going to be interesting. Now, EOS has been one of the stronger names. Here's the USD pair getting very tight versus BTC. Here near the highs, was trying to break out here yesterday. Couldn't really see it, but still the pattern looks really good. Got to keep an eye on EOS. And Cardano is another one I'm watching here. Just really consolidating some of these moves. So, you know, we've had a period of several weeks of just consolidation, largely driven by the broader pullback that we've seen in Bitcoin here for the last couple of weeks, and really for most of this new year. As you can see, once we broke that 17K mark, really saw some selling. So I'm optimistic that we have found a near-term low. Is it the low? Is it the final low? That's it, we're going higher? That's yet to be seen. I'm not that optimistic yet. I think we need a little bit more back testing, but in the very near term, meaning maybe next couple days to next couple weeks, we could see some upside action here and a little bit of a counter trend rally from this downtrend that we've been in. But like I said, this is symmetrical. It could go either way. Right now, the momentum on the daily charts, the broader charts, it's still very much to the downside. You can see until we break this pattern of these lower highs, then clearly the overall trend is still down. The good news is here in the near term, it's starting to kind of go sideways, trying to find a low. Now we just got to wait to see if we can get some good upside confirmation, and we'll have to go from there. So taking it one day at a time, but in the near term, I'm getting pretty optimistic here that we're going to start to break to the upside. And so I'm watching, paying attention to a lot of these alts that are setting up, and will be interesting to see. I'll keep you guys posted if we start to get some more big movements in the markets. Keep an eye out. I will likely be doing a live stream in the next couple of days. Until next time, take care, everyone.